Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video we are diving into a topic that will interest you, and the topic is the cost of plastering a 4-bedroom house in Ghana. And so this is a project I personally worked on in Tema, and so we are going into the details of all the estimates and everything that was needed to be done on the project site to come out with a good plastering. So whether you are in the planning stage of your dream house or home, or just curious about the construction costs, this video will break down everything you need to know about plastering. We will also explore other factors that influence the cost of plastering, i.e. material, labor, the location, and then the finish, the type of finish you want. So by the end of this video, you will have a clear understanding of what to expect when budgeting for a plastering of your house in Ghana. Let's get started. So before we dive into the costs, let's quickly go over what plastering entails. Someone might not even know what plastering is. So after laying your blocks, after doing your foundation, laying your blocks, your casting, doing the slab, roofing, everything, activity before painting starts, and it's part of the finishing work. So plastering is the process of covering your rough surfaces, the block work, the rough surfaces such as the walls and then the ceiling, with a layer of plaster. And so the plaster is sand plus cement plus water, which gives you mortar, and that mortar is used to cover the surface of the rough of the block work to give it a nice or a smooth surface before painting is applied on it. So if you ask me, that is how the plastering is. It is the sand, the cement, water, which you add the three materials together, that becomes a mortar, and then you use the mortar to cover the uneven surfaces of the block work that you've done. Basically, that is the plastering. So now that we know what a plastering is, let's look at the factors that influence the cost of plastering your house. Basically, it depends on about 3 or 4 factors. The first one is materials, one is the labor, and the labor is about the kind of skilled artisans you are getting to plaster your house for you, and even the type of contract terms you want to go with them, whether they are going to do by day, that is the daily work, or you are going to give it to them in a form of contract. And then the surface area. So if the surface area of your house is that crooked, if it's not that good, you spend more. If your wall is not properly aligned, you would want to use the plastering to cover up the uneven surface, and so you spend more. You apply more mortar, and in application of the more mortar, you spend more. If your surface area is not that good, as in it's not that smooth, you would want to do a nice plastering, and it will incur more cost because you are going to engage the artisans for a longer days, and so the surface area has a major impact, which is why when it is time for block work, you make sure that your block is wall aligned, your block is wall straight, so that you don't get crooked surfaces, and then at the time you have to do the finishes, you have to spend time to correct it. And in project, spending time means that you are getting more, or you are increasing your budget. The other factor is the location of your project. If I say location of a project, for instance, you are building in East Legon cantonment, and you are cutting material from, let's say, Amasamai or Kaswa and even beyond, it means that your cost of material is going to be high, especially your raw materials. They are going to be high because, for instance, if you are building in Kaswa, cutting material in Kaswa site place in the same Kaswa is not going to be as high as cutting Kaswa to East Legon. I believe you understand the dynamics I'm making. So it also, the location plays a very and major important role in even overall project management. If you are putting up a project, the location determines the cost of it, and that is basic. The other thing too is the finish quality, the type of quality or the finish you want, and then how you want quality of your plastering to be able to withstand the wear. I'm mentioning quality because even in plastering there are 2 ratios you can apply. Either you go by 1:3 ratio, or you go by 1:4. Basically 1:3 means that you are adding less sand, more cement. 1:4 means that more sand, and the cement remains the same. So which means that if you take 1 bag of cement, you are taking 4 bags of sand, and 1:3 means that if you take 1 bag of cement, you are taking 3 bags of sand. It means that you are applying for 1:4, you are using more sand, and 1:3, you are using less sand. And so if you use more sand, you buy more. If you use less, you buy less. So I mean, if you use less sand, it means that you need more cement to make your plastering quality. I don't know if my explanation is clear, but the less your ratio, the quality of plastering you get. The more the sand, your quality is not at the same as adding less sand to your ratio. That is the finishing aspect. A plastering that you want it to be able to withstand all weather irrespective, you add less sand so that your plastering will be that hard and devoid of cracking and all those stuff. And then the material I also mentioned, if you are plastering, you make sure you get a proper sand, the sand that has a low PI. I don't want to go into the details of these technicalities. PI is plasticity index. It means that the volume of clay in your sand should be less so that you avoid cracking of your plastering. So now let's go into the cost breakdown. So viewers, now we are looking at the cost breakdown. So we'll talk about the material cost. And in the material cost, first of all, you need to determine the total area of your plastering. And in this project, for a standard bedroom house that I built for someone, the total area was 720 meters square. Let me go further into how I got this area. So area means that you are putting your length and breadth together and getting your area. So I calculated the total length of my walls in the house, and then I multiply it by the height of my wall. And the total area that I got, I multiply it by the height of my wall. I'm taking it for the last time. The total length of the wall that I have laid times the height of the wall. And then in doing that for the ground floor and then the first floor, I had 720 meters square. If you are building a house, or if you are building a house and you have more than this, that doesn't mean that you are wrong. It means that your building is a little bit bigger than what I have. It could also be that your own is less than what I've mentioned. The 720 means that your building is a little bit smaller than what I have. But for a standard 4-bedroom house, this area is okay. It could be that yours will be plus or minus. It's okay. So that's the total area I'm working on. And with this area, and because I also wanted a certain quality, I used 1:3 for my plastering, both internal and external, because I told you that I wanted a certain quality. So I used 1:3 for my ratio. And so by using the 1:3, I had 120 bags of cement, the plastering. And I don't want to go into detail because that I can do another video, or later I'll be doing another video explaining how to do these calculations. But I got 120 bags of cement for my plastering. And with the sand, I had 30 cubic. And the 30 cubic means that, in Ghana, the big truck, the China truck, usually is around 20 cubic. So if you have 30 cubic, it means that it's 1.5. And there's no way a driver will go and cut half truck and come and dump it for you. It doesn't make sense. So you get that one truck and then you get a 10 cubic truck car and the 10 cubic truck car. So the cement, the cost of the cement was 100 cedis as at the time I was buying. So 100 cedis times 120, I think I had about 13,200 for the cement. That was how much I spent for the cement for all the plaster. And then the sand, because I did 30 cubic, it also amounted to, one truck was 2,400, and then that was for the 20 cubic truck, and then the 10 cubic truck also was half of it. So if you put the big truck and the small truck together, it's 3,600. That's also how much I spent for the sand. If you are far away from town, you get the sand cheaper than what I have mentioned. And then let's move on to the water. The water I bought, because I told you that where I built was in a prime area. I spent about 10,000 cedis for my water. Viewers, before we move to the labor, let me quickly also say this, that the total area I had for the plastering, or the surface area I got, that's the 720, is after I have deducted all the openings. So if I say the openings, i.e. the window, the door openings, and any other openings in the wall, because when you are doing the calculation, for instance, if you take the entire length of a wall and then you multiply it by the height, the possibility that you find windows in that wall. So when you do the total area, you measure also the area of the window or the door and take it from the total area you had for that space. And so I did all this, and then I arrived at the 720 meters square. I just wanted to chip this one in so that when you are doing your own calculation, you know how to go about it. When you take the entire space and there's a window or door there, deduct that openings from your area so that you can get actual. Now let's move to the labor. So the labor, you can look at it in these two ways, that you go with the artisans by contracts or by daily works. So let me explain the daily works. The daily works is you engage an artisan and he will come with people, and then they will work by day and then you pay them. So in Ghana, usually the mason, you pay 170, between 170 to 200 for a mason, and then the laborer, you pay between 150 to 120 for a labor. Depends on whatever you agreed on, then you enter into that form of contract with. So if they are to do daily work, every day they come, they work, and then you pay them. And the other one too is the contract. The contract, you give them rate. So if they plaster 1 meter square of a space, you give them rates. And by this project, so I gave the work to them on contract base. When you enter or you agree with them on contract basis, it takes a lot of stress from you. In that case, whether you are there or not, they're able to do the work, because the artisan also knows that he has taken the work on contract basis, and so if he slows down, he's going to lose. And so I usually prefer this option, and I also advise my viewers or whoever who is planning to enter into any form of contracts in the building or the construction area. I will suggest this form of contract for you, especially if it's a big project or you are doing your own house. Usually it's advisable you enter into contract with them. You don't lose in that manner. But by day, you need to have someone on the side to also monitor whether they are properly working or they are just lagging around. And so that is just an advice. In Ghana, usually depending on the project location, usually the rate for 1 meter square of an area is between 20 cedis to 30 cedis. So I negotiated with them and I paid 22 cedis per square meter. If you multiply the 22 cedis by the 720 meter square, which is the total area, you are getting 15,840 cedis. So now we know the cost for material, which is 17,800. We know the cost for labor, which is 15,840 cedis. Now let's look at the third item, which is scaffold, because it's a storyboard and you will need scaffold for, all the height work so that the artisans can stand on it and work properly. And then I rented the scaffold for a certain number of days, which amounted to 1,500. And then I spent a certain money for contingencies, transportation of materials, some of the materials to site, and all amounted to 2,000 Ghana cedis. Usually contingencies, you budget between 5% to 10%, but in my case, I spent about 2,000 cedis, which is a little above 5% of my total figure. If you put all these figures together, you are looking around 37,140 cedis for the plastering of a 4-bedroom house in Ghana. And this amount could be plus or minus 10%. And so if you are doing your personal project, be budgeting around this figure and look at it in a way that it's either you add 10% or minus 10%. And I'm sure this video will help you plan for your plastering. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and share. Also subscribe for more content on Construction Wizard TV. We always talk about the built environment, anything that has to do with building, construction technologies, and everything. You got nowhere to go than be on Construction Wizard TV. All our videos is to help you put up your own structure, do a project by your own self, and this is what we want to do to help the community. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.